am clearly the comic relief component of the evening, all right? And we're gonna have a lot of slides, but there's a lot of pictures, so it's gonna be fast, but I talk fast, so it's gonna be good. All right, so I love storytelling, and I find that the best, most compelling stories are the stories that come from people. You know, the stories that matter, that resonate. So this is gonna be a little bit about me, but it's gonna be all about us and me, and so I hope you enjoy. So I also believe that the bravest thing that you can ever do in life is be vulnerable. And I find that when we actually open up and we actually share some of our secrets and we share some of those uncomfortable things in life, we actually get a lot further. I see a lot of nods, so there's a lot of happy faces. Thank you very much for those. All right, so does anybody remember this? No? So this is a campaign that was done by the Ontario government a couple years ago regarding sexual harassment in the workplace. And it was actually a really good campaign. They actually did a really great job on this. And this was me. This wasn't me. I wanted to be Debbie in the 80s, and this was not me. But this was my situation a number of years ago. I actually worked for a boss that was in love with me. And it wasn't Hollywood, and it wasn't cute, and it wasn't sweet. It was exhausting, and it was troubling, and it was really, really awful. So I went to go see a lawyer. This woman is the name Beth Symes, and she is one of the best labor lawyers in the country, Order of Canada and all that kind of stuff, and a staunch supporter of women's rights. And so I sat down and I had a conversation with her, and I talked about 3 times faster than I am now, because she's like $500 an hour. And I had a stack of BBMs, and I was telling her everything that was happening, and I was laying it all out there, and this is like a number of years ago. She goes, Karen, so first of all, I'm gonna make a reference that maybe half of you in the room are gonna understand. She looked like Murphy Brown. Right? So anyone who doesn't know who Murphy Brown is, start Googling her right now. And she's in this amazing office in downtown Toronto, and she says, Karen, I'm gonna talk to you like a couple of girlfriends having a glass of wine. I said, okay. And she said, and I was like, what? And it wasn't because of what she said. That's not what kind of shocked me, because anybody who actually knows me, and stay tuned, because you'll know that swearing is not a problem for me. It was, I didn't expect it from her. And I didn't expect it in that circumstance. And what she said to me at that point was, every single day you need to do something to get yourself closer to getting out of that spot. She like totally gave me a cold cock around the head, and she told me to wake up, be more informed, take control and charge of my life. And it was one of the most amazing mentoring sessions I ever had in my life, even if I was paying $500 an hour for it. So that was the beginning of a shift for me. And then, this was me about 4 years later. Look happy, right? Super happy. Let's talk about culture mode. What does this picture tell you about the culture that I was in at the moment? It was pretty toxic, actually. And this was me pretending to love my job. I got away from that boss. I did the right thing. I worked really hard to make myself a career, and I actually changed my trajectory a lot. So I made a lot of changes, but I still kind of got wrapped up in working for an enterprise that was, shifting leadership and shifting priorities and not valuing me, and it showed. So what ended up happening is I ended up getting really sick. I ended up getting diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. Anybody ever heard of ulcerative colitis? Yeah, see, there's always a couple in the room, always. So let me just say really quickly, there's nothing more humbling as a human being when a basic function of your humanity stops functioning properly. Okay? So I ended up going into the hospital, and I was in crisis, and I was there for about 5 days. It took me about 2 months to recover. And after I was recovering, I talked to a girlfriend of mine who's an urban shaman. It's not the best title ever. Like, if you're gonna give yourself a title, you wanna be an urban shaman. So she said to me, oh, ulcerative colitis, eh? That was my response. But again, it was a new shift for me. And what it was is it told me that I was holding on to things that weren't serving me and that weren't helping me. And I needed to make those changes for myself. And so that was another kind of change for me at that time in my life. So we talk a lot about disruption, right? So clearly what Greta's doing is you're disrupting a certain place, right? And I think that we talk about it often in the sense of being a startup or being in a technology space. Often, we're using it in the wrong way, actually. There was a really great article in Medium recently that talked about actually what does disruption look like in an enterprise industry. I highly recommend you read it. But what I wanted to talk to you about tonight was disrupting yourself. So bear with me for a second, because I'm certainly not a Freudian, and I don't support Freud, except for he did have actually one really good idea, which was the pleasure principle. right? So the pleasure principle is that everything that we do in our lives is based on making us happy. What you eat, what you drink, who you hang out with, where you live, what music you listen to, the movies you watch, everything is based on providing you some element of joy. So when it's incongruent, when what you're doing is not providing you joy, things happen, like your body shuts down on you to tell you to pay attention to these things. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about enterprises, and I've worked in large enterprises of 35,000 people plus, and I've worked in startups that started off with 100 people and we grew to 150 before we got acquired, right? So it doesn't matter what kind of size of an organization you're talking about. Everybody thinks they want change, but nobody actually wants to change. And so what I want to talk to you guys about, and what I want to encourage you all to do, and no matter what your circumstances are, because they're different for everybody, is I want you to make the change for yourself. And what does that look like? It's different for everybody. I want you to disrupt yourself in what way that works for you. Because we work in patterns, right? Patterns is like something happens and we react a certain way, and then we go back to these patterns, and these patterns are the way that we actually respond to our lives. And those patterns may sometimes work for us, but often I'm going to hazard a guess that oftentimes they do not. So we like to take the path of certainty, but what I'm contending tonight is that being uncertain is what actually gives you the greatest reward. So before you're feeling like this, and before you're feeling like this, I came across this quote, and it was from Cheryl Strayed, and it was after her mom had died, and it was about putting yourself in the way of beauty. And so my challenge for you, my call to action for everybody here is to put yourself in your own way of disruption. Oh, this was it. Very personal. For me, I made a decision to walk away from environments that did not value me or respect me. I decided to actually give voice to environments and to arguments and to things that people weren't talking about, like this kind of subject. And so the greatest disruption in my life came when I actually put myself in front of that purposefully, rather than reacting to the disruption that was happening to me as it had previously in my life. So I encourage you to get yourself shit disturbed. Be your own constructive irritant. Don't wait for the lousy boss, or don't wait for the change that's happening in your organization. The greatest change is going to come to you, whether it's starting a new company, or whether it's making a change, or whether it's hiring the right person, or whether it's trying out that new app. Whatever it may be, you don't know what it's going to look like. But don't assume that where you are right now is necessarily where you have to be. Don't accept that. By the way, if I could do an entire talk on just like gaping void, I totally would. So now what? So the question is, so if you are a startup, personally disrupt yourself. Get out of your norm. Look around you. If you are a white dude, go hang out in a room that is not full of white dudes. Oh, scary thought, right? And I'm not talking about being an interloper, okay? Like I'm talking about like working toward engaging with a community that is not necessarily your community. I'm talking about building relationships. I'm talking about being specifically uncomfortable. Be a minority in a room and go sit in that room. So I was also thinking about this, like, with regards to like, if you're a man, if you're a woman, go into a room and just be the only woman in the room, but we know that that happens a lot in tech. So when I was doing a Google search on men being the only men in a room of women, I think we have a bias problem. Just maybe. So keep that in mind. All right, so what I want to do, I want to encourage you to do that listening. I want you to go to a community of people that you don't know or that you are not part of, and just listen. Don't proffer information, don't share information, just listen to the stories of other people and have that influence you. Because you really are always just one decision away from actually having a huge change to your life and from your worldview. And if you're building a startup, that means you're building a better product. And if you're building a company, that means you're building a better company and a better culture. And if you're talking to people from an... So I encourage you to not sitting in the comforting lies line and sitting in these kind of uncomfortable truths. Thanks. I'm sure there's no questions. This isn't really kind of a question. questions thing, but if there are questions, I'm happy to take them.
Questions?
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.